How can you help your child who is in a difficult or toxic or dysfunctional relationship? None of us as parents want our kids to be with anybody other than somebody who is healthy. But reality is, especially if we raised our children in a dysfunctional home, that our children are going to make some choices that are not 100% healthy. So, what can you do? Well, first of all, if your child is under 18, you have a little more control because you can exercise, decisions about where they can go, who they can go with, as much as you can control what permission you give. You can't always control where they go after they leave the house, but there's a little more control there. But let me just give you some ideas. I teach a class called Transforming Difficult Relationships, and all of the principles that I teach in that class apply to this situation, which can be applied to any dysfunctional relationship. So the fact that your child is dating somebody or possibly living with or married to somebody that does not, meet your full approval, that you have concerns about, means that you have a difficult relationship with your child and the person that they are with. So that means that all of these principles apply. So, first of all, I think you need to identify the concerns that you have. What is it that you're seeing? Are you concerned that there might be abuse, a drinking problem, maybe some manipulation? Is it, what is it that you think you're dealing with? Kind of like figure it out so you're clear on what you're seeing, if you can be, especially if you're around that person more or if your child is sharing things with you. I think that you need to also remember my principle that I teach called change yourself, not them. Recognize that you cannot force your child to not be with this person. You cannot force this person to change. You cannot force this person to address your concerns. And you cannot ultimately determine whether or not your child chooses to stay with this person. So recognizing that powerlessness helps you to take the focus off of trying to force change. Because when we force change or try to force change, we end up getting kind of obsessive and we start trying to find things out and we start thinking about it too much and allowing it to dominate our thoughts and our lives and our moods, and we take it on like it's our problem to solve. So you want to focus instead on changing yourself. What can you do to model a healthy relationships in your life? What can you do to have a healthy relationship with your child and this person if you have the opportunity to interact with them? So that's change what you can, basically, yourself. You can't force them. And then a very important principle that applies to this is called detaching in love. Detaching in love means it's kind of like you keep your side of the street clean and then you let them take care of theirs. So you're not going to react and feel responsible to fix your child, to change your child, to convince your child or this other person. You don't need to react when your child, say, is upset over something that happened in the relationship. You don't have to let it change your mood. You don't have to let it take just up so much space in your life that you've just, drop everything and run to help your child and try to fix the relationship problems and counsel them. You want to just kind of keep living your life and allow your child to figure out how to solve the problems that this relationship has. Now, if your child asks you, that's great. You can give some, kind of input without getting just overboard with it, without getting accusatory, without, just totally putting this person down. Have you ever had the experience where you have the opportunity to say something to somebody helpful, and instead, when it's the person that they're complaining about, say it's the boyfriend or the girlfriend, and then they're complaining, and then when you jump on the bandwagon and you say something negative, then that person switches and basically defends. So if you go too far against that person, you're going to find that your kid is going to there's going to be a backlash, and your kid's going to start saying good things about them. So be careful. Be careful what you say and how you respond. I think you can empathize with problems. You can empathize with being upset. You can share what you're observing. Sounds like you're really upset. That's being empathetic. That's validating. It sounds like you had a really bad fight. Sounds like you guys aren't getting along lately, or it seems like the fights are increasing, or you don't seem like yourself, or just you seem kind of sad. You seem nervous, or you seem insecure. You seem to be like whatever it is that you're observing, whatever the child is telling you, you can validate, but not attack that person. Also, you can recognize that, again, it's your child's decision and your child's problem to solve. It's not yours. You don't have to make a plan of how you think the child should deal with this and tell the child how to act or what to do in the relationship, because again, you're going to find that you're going to be kind of overstepping that. So stay on your side, be someone that can empathize, be somebody that can say, I understand. I remember when I was dating, I had this situation. You can give, examples or some lessons that you've learned, or you can, just say, if you've got a divorce situation and you've been in a relationship where, that was something that's going on was really toxic, you can say, that was one of the reasons that I left that relationship, or one of the reasons that I broke that relationship off. So, whatever it is, sharing your experience, but not your like advice of what exactly the child has to do. And then you want to watch your reactivity, because your emotions, especially if you're worried about your child, your emotions could be strong, and you could end up attacking your child and kind of coming off like, I told you so, I told you this person wasn't healthy, and being angry, or being so reactive that you want to tell that person off and call that person and stay away from my child. And that is not also a good thing to do. So you don't want to get involved in that way. You want to face your fears. What are you worried about? With some of those, you can be honest with your child and say, I'm afraid that you're going to get caught up in this relationship and it's going to be really hard to get out, or I'm afraid that you're, going to end up being hurt, or I see patterns I'm really worried about. You also face your own fears in your own life, things that you're fearful of with your child making the choices that they're making. You don't want to ever accuse in a really negative way their partner, because, like I said, they will come back and defend. If you are around this person, you need to be respectful and polite. Do not ignore this person. Do not be rude to the person. Do not tell the person off. If you have the opportunity to speak openly, you can, say things like, I have my concerns, or I have the things I'm uncomfortable with. Now, but you want to keep in mind always when your child is with somebody that that person could end up being their partner for life. And if that person is, and they have resentments for how you've treated them and didn't like them, they may want to keep your child and your grandchildren away from you. And so be careful that you are respectful and that you are polite. The same thing goes for saying, some people will say, I don't want to encourage the relationship, so I'm not going to invite this person over into my home. Well, again, when your child is choosing to be with them, then if your child cannot bring that person into your life, like with a family get together or for a birthday party or to go out to dinner, you won't get to know the person very much. Your child is going to have to choose to be with them away from the family. When you do have that person around you, you will have experiences that you'll be better able to base your opinion on. If you have an opportunity to speak truth in love and you're concerned to your child. So there's a lot of benefits of allowing your child to bring this person around. Your child, in fact, if your child doesn't want to bring this person around you, then that kind of is a red flag. Like, oh, the child realizes that you're not going to like them or that you're not going to approve, or it could be that your family is dysfunctional and they're fearful of what that person might see. But assuming that you know what's going on with that and whether there's a reason that your child wouldn't want to bring a person they're dating around you. So just keep in mind that there's some good things about still having that person around, and then there's some things that, it could make it easier, but at the same time, you have an opportunity to interact and have an opinion. And I kind of like that. So the other thing is boundaries. There are opportunities for boundaries, and things like, will you allow that person to spend the night? Will you in your home and in the room with your child? And that is some place where you can say, I can't control what you do away, but we can, we have rules in our household. Also, if you are comfortable allowing that person to go, say, on a family vacation, you have that. If there are anything that you need to protect your family from, I mean, legitimately, realistically, truthfully, then you always have a right to put yourself first. If you sense that your child is in danger, then in some more extreme cases, you might have to do something more drastic. But often, again, it can backfire if you jump in and do something and then your child gets angry with you for causing a breakup, and then that will pull them away even more. So, and most importantly, our children are growing up and learning just like we did. We made mistakes, and the world is even more complicated, and family relationship dynamics and the things that are going on today are in some ways, it's not like there wasn't dysfunction before. There was, of course, it just not was not talked about as much. But truly, the amount of addiction, you know, drug abuse, the amount of divorce, remarriage, kids being raised in, so many of them being raised in single parent homes and having their moms or their dads, with a partner and then changing another partner. There's just so much video, internet addictions, sexual addiction, just so much stuff out there that is complicating relationships. So our kids get to learn, our kids get to grow. We love them no matter what. We want to make sure that they understand that we will always love them, that we will always support them in terms of being committed to their very best, but we don't always necessarily have to approve, but it isn't our decision of who they are going to end up with as a life partner. If your child is already with this person, has a child or children with them, is married to them, living with them in a long-term relationship, you have to be very gracious and very accepting and be careful that you don't push too hard, or you could lose relationship with your own child. Even if you don't like this person necessarily, if you have the opportunity to foster a relationship. I've often said to mother-in-laws who were like really worried about, a daughter-in-law or this person becoming their daughter-in-law, invite her out to lunch, take her out, pay for her lunch, take her shopping, have a girls' day, get to know her, ask her questions, invest something in her. So you'll see, what does your son see in her? Or what does your daughter see in this guy? And, man to man, have the father take the man out and talk to him and see more about who he is and get to know him. And, just we want to make sure that we don't set a precedent that is going to cause this person to take our children away from us because they feel so unaccepted and so rejected by us. And that can be probably the worst outcome of any of this. And if your child is going to end up with somebody that's not healthy and have to learn the hard way, you're going to be there to help when you can, help when it's needed, and to love and support your child. And I should say one more thing. I always recommend offering to pay for therapy. If you can say, look, I know you're not sure about what if this relationship's good for you or not, but I'd be happy to pay for therapy for you to kind of go talk to somebody about it, find out if it's the right thing for you. I would definitely be willing to do that, and especially if the child is trying to figure out some complicated dynamics or to get support and help and understanding in a relationship that they're already involved in. Obviously, you can give them my materials and suggest that to them, but you want to give your child practical help and offering to pay for counseling when they're really trying to figure out some decisions and say some relationship dynamics, or to grow themselves or figure out what's going on with them or why they keep picking unhealthy people. Great, great investment. Always speak to your child about your love, your concern, your grace, but don't do it in the form of giving advice, condemnation, criticism, because that will push them away. So I hope that this helped. You have questions now, obviously. Oh, I want to just keep saying more and more. If it's abuse and it's something that's dangerous and your grandkids are involved, that's kind of a different situation where you might have to intervene to protect the kids, or in serious situations to protect your child. So, okay, if you have questions, your specific dynamics that you're dealing with, please email me. And if you have a child that is with somebody and you are struggling with your child's decisions and your child's relationship, you are in a difficult relationship. You need my class, Transforming Difficult Relationships, and my class on boundaries, and my books and my devotional that gives you 365 daily devotions, because that is a difficult relationship just by the fact that your child is with somebody that you're not really happy with. So, okay, God bless you. I hope this helped. Send me your questions, and if I can find some that lots of people are sending in, I'll make sure that I answer them in some of these YouTube videos. God bless.